I was doing what it took to make it happen, to get to that end goal, which was a brief period of time, if you think about it. To me, 18 to 20 months was an investment of time and investment in myself for getting into a career opportunity that potentially was for the long haul,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so that's how I would look at it, and removing the fear, removing the doubt, believing in yourself, because those are voices in our head that can really easily take over if we allow them to. Years ago, I read a book by Joyce Meyer called, and it's funny, before the book even came out, I used to say, the mind's a great battlefield, the mind's a great battlefield. And she wrote a book, Battlefield of the Mind, and I read it, and she talks about this very subject, about how we let those negative thoughts come into our head and infiltrate our mindset, where we've got to remove that. And we've got to remind ourselves, what is the value? We are valuable. And where are those assets? And really work off those assets and what we're passionate about. And finding something that we truly can enjoy doing. And it may be an investment of money or time for a short period of time and sacrificing, but look at the reward at the end.
Are you ready to think big and act bold? Then you are in the right place. This is Innovative Entrepreneurs, a podcast that will bring you the stories, insights, and tips from some of the most successful and innovative entrepreneurs in the world. I am your host, Erica Bailey, and I am here to help you start, scale, and sustain your own entrepreneurial journey. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome back to Innovative Entrepreneurs. I am your host, Erica Bailey, and as always, I start off with gratitude. I am grateful for another beautiful day, and I am very grateful for the woman who sits across the screen from me today. We have an incredible guest today. Kimberly embodies resilience and reinvention and bold action, which we talk about a lot on this podcast. Miss Kimberly Hightower. She is a powerhouse in the world of equipment finance, but it started a long time before then. She is currently working with Avtech Capital, where she made waves by hitting the President's Club in just 4 months. Now, this is unheard of. But like I said, her journey didn't start there. Her journey over the years, she has actually reinvented her career twice, transitioning from a 25-year leadership career in retail, where she helped launch H&M in the US and introduced the Barnes & Noble Nook to the fitness industry. Wow, more than I even knew. She co-owned a women's fitness club in New York. She has a passion for helping people achieve their personal and professional best. I can speak from experience. Kimberly proves that success has no age limit. At 60, she continues to inspire others to embrace bold moves. I've got goosebumps. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. We say this all the time. And she takes chances fearlessly. She's an epitome. She's an example of what I think of when I'm thinking of powerful women. She is a powerful woman. But what I love most about Kimberly is that power is not in her head. It is in her heart. It is in her stomach. It is in her soul. It's a power of love and just the energy. If you ever get the opportunity to be in the same room with Kimberly Hightower, the energy is just, it's off the hook. You're going to love this conversation, everyone. So today we're actually going to dive into what it takes to reinvent yourself. This was her idea. She wants to help women realize that there's still life after 50, after 60. You can become the person you want to be. She wants to cultivate the I can do anything mindset. Miss Kimberly Hightower, welcome to my show. It's finally here. You're finally
Yay!
on. I'm so excited.
I am too. We've talked about this for a while, and we're making it happen today, Erica. Thank you so much for having me.
So, well, like I said, like I sat there and kind of told everybody how I feel about you. I truly believe you are an inspirational, beautiful woman. The very first time I met you, you sat across from me, and my first response was, I'm a bit intimidated by this well put together, well spoken, beautiful, classy human being. And then she opens her mouth and her heart, and with an instant, it's complete comfort. And just like, I want to be at the same table with this woman.
Oh,
But
wow.
this has been like your whole life in the making, right? So can we kind
Mhm.
of start with, like, do a summary of your career as a career woman? Like, you have done a lot in your life and some pretty big things. So
Yes.
why don't we start kind of in the beginning, if you don't mind? Share about you.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I wanted to major in journalism. I wanted to be the next Oprah Winfrey. That was the goal. And I had gotten a job in retail, wanted to work at the mall and get my clothes and start getting myself in the workforce as I was getting ready to graduate high school. So I got, as I always said back then, bit by the retail bug. And as soon as I graduated, I was an assistant manager. And the next thing you know, I was a store manager and I worked full time, may have partied full time, and also went to school full time. So it was quite a busy life, but my retail career took off quicker than school did. And mom and dad were on board with, you know what? This is a great opportunity that had presented itself, being a manager of a store on Worth Avenue in Palm Beach, which there's no 19-year-old that's managing a store in Palm Beach at the time on Worth Avenue. And they were like, school's always going to be there. Go take advantage of this opportunity. And I did. And it was a great stepping stone. And I just kept growing and finding, better career opportunities. And in 1990, I had the opportunity to move to the Northeast as a district manager for a company called Units. It was unisex, one size fits all clothing, and it was just really booming. And um, someone who was very impactful in my life and will be. Her name was Sharon Adams. She was actually the vice president of stores, and she was just a great mentor and really believed in me and gave me this opportunity to move to the New York, New Jersey metro area. And my district was the whole Northeast. And if you remember back in 1990, there was maps, there was no GPS, there was cell phones were just coming out. And I just jumped in with both feet, moved to the Northeast. And on my days off, I literally would drive around and get lost on purpose. And that's how I learned the highways and byways of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, all over, and just ate it up and lived in that area until about 8 years ago. And staying in the Northeast opened up many windows and doors of opportunity for me. And as you stated, two that I'm most proud of was working for H&M, being one of the first three Americans hired to be a part of the American startup team. That afforded me the opportunity to live in Stockholm, Sweden for a year. I got to work in their corporate office and work in the stores and really learn the culture. And then 6 months in, we came back. We hired the first 500 Americans, and it didn't matter if they were part time or full time. Everybody went to Norway or Stockholm to train for 6 weeks. So myself and the two other Americans, we were in charge of this, and it was a great experience to learn a different culture and retail style, work ethic, and bring it back to the States. So that was a really great journey. And at the same time, kind of like a year after it, I was getting into the fitness industry. Just started as a trainer. I've always been the kind of person back then when I was younger where I could work and do two or three other jobs at the same time. I was like juggling and being busy. So I had gotten into the fitness industry more full time after that and really loved it. I did that for about 3 years. And then I was like, I really do miss being in retail and I can't step away from this career too long because then my worth in the industry would go way down. So I wanted to get back in. And another very influential person. Her name is Marcia First. She was at the time a regional manager for B. Dalton when I worked for them in the 90s, and she's now at Barnes and Noble. And I just reached out to her, and next thing you know, I'm opening one of Barnes and Noble's newest high-profile stores down in Menlo Park, New Jersey. And I was reminded quite often when I was training that they don't hire people from the outside to open a new store. This is an unusual situation, but she really believed in me. She put a lot of trust in me. And I made sure I delivered excellence every day. So much so I was asked to open the next high profile store for them 3 years later in Hackensack, New Jersey, and brought some of my team with me from store number one to store number two. And We really established a great repeat clientele because if you've ever been to Barnes and Noble and those of whom that love it, the biggest thing is the sense of community, especially at our cafes. So we just really provided that excellence in remembering their name, remembering their favorite drink, where people would go out of their way to go outside of the mall or get off the highway to come to our store to get their coffee because you go to Starbucks anywhere, right? But they would get out of their car, come into the store because they had to go to our cafe or shop at our store. And I really believed in collaboration and teamwork and being an excellent team player, people developer, I should say, and giving everybody a role in which they contributed to the entire team. And we all shared in success and celebrated our successes. And that's what made the difference. And you brought up the point of Nook. So the e-reader came out. And when the e-reader came out, they could pick any store. There was 4 or 5 stores alone in Manhattan, and several other in the New York, New Jersey metro area, but they picked my Hackensack store to send the press. They sent him in a limo, the reporter, out to my store to watch us open up and unbox the first Nook, and he wrote an article about it. So that was a proud moment for me because they could have sent this reporter anywhere, and they chose my store and me to do this. Um, so there's many things, in the 10 years that I worked for Barnes and Noble, that's combined with B. Dalton, that I have great memories. And I've worked for some other really great companies, but those two companies really, for me, where I really got to shine and really, I'm very proud of my accomplishments. Being in retail, why I liked it was because no 2 days were alike. And I like working in chaos. I thrive in chaos. So in retail, reinventing myself, maybe going from personal care or high fashion into books, totally different type of realm, right? But just really jumping in with both feet and embracing it and learning the product and being super passionate about it was the secret to my success back then. In 2010, I decided to get out of the retail arena. I was like, enough. My old business partner, friend of mine, reached back out and convinced me to go back into business with her at a gym called Lady of America in White Plains. So I co-ran the gym with her. She was home raising her babies, and I got to be the face of the business and back with my members and teaching and training. And I again love inspiring others and being in a women's gym. Women train very different than men do, and a lot of women are very intimidated, right, to go into a gym and feel welcome. And that was something that we really prided ourselves on, that this was a safe space, open to everybody. It didn't matter what you looked like, and come in and, it was like a family that we built. And I really loved teaching classes. I loved my one-on-one personal training clients, don't get me wrong, but teaching classes, I felt like I could impact more people in an hour period of time, if you will, and really, really enjoyed that in motivating and in empowering women and seeing the results and sharing and celebrating with them. And, I miss those days. Those were some fun days. Um, I've done some other things too. I was through the powers of LinkedIn, a company from Limerick, Ireland, found me on LinkedIn and reached out for me to be the first master sales trainer in the United States. The company was called OMT. They were a consultant company, very similar to like a Price Waterhouse Cooper, but more a boutique, a smaller scale.
Okay. Okay.
And their client was Hudson. You see the Hudson newsstands, news stores in and
Oh, and
do
like
free.
airports?
Yep.
Okay.
So
Okay.
travel retail. So because of my retail background, they reached out to me and thought I'd be an expert in rolling out this sales training platform that they developed for Hudson Do Free. So the first location we did it was the Newark Airport with the Do Free store there, and it was
Okay.
super successful. So they asked me to work for them more full time, and I accepted that opportunity. And it turned really into, I mean, I did not go to school for this training and development side of things, being more of that consultant.
Yep.
But I really, again, just took my expertise and my background, learned their business, learned what OMT was doing, and really embraced these modules. And my job was to go train the trainer so they could deliver these trainings on the floor. It was called out in front. So they were 10 to 15-minute training modules that anybody that was an assistant manager or higher would deliver on the floor while the business was open, because it was, it's airports. They can't shut down. They're pretty much open 24/7. So it was really successful, and we kept taking on more locations throughout the country. So I grew in my role, and then my role became more of a regional manager where I was onboarding the other master sales trainers in the country and going and giving, actually selling the program to the key stakeholders at the different airport hubs and getting their buy-in. And then we would go and roll it out, hire the master sales trainer, train them. I would roll it out with that person, and then they would report to me, and I would help coach and help them maintain the program in their location. Sadly, it was a contract type of a job. And going into the fourth year, rightfully so, Hudson Dufree took it back in-house with their human resources. I was also very much an instrumental part of helping the head of human resources train her resource agents throughout the country so they could handle it. That was a sad moment for me because I really enjoyed the traveling around and meeting new people. And then from there, this is a funny story. I remember it was a Sunday afternoon, and back in New York, Craigslist was kind of like
Yep.
KSL here, but remember,
Yep.
and there was an ad for merchant processing, and I was feeling pretty cocky and confident. Like when I read it, I was like, I could do that, simple. So I answered it kind of like that, and the hiring manager immediately like called me that day on a Sunday. I guess they liked my response, and I got into merchant processing, and that was a completely different thing for me. The reason why I felt that I'd be good at it is it was basically selling or leasing the credit card machines, but also the rates. So I understood the technology. I learned how to set the rates, and I would leave my house on a Sunday night, come home on Friday night, and go to an area they called it campaigns, but somewhere, it could be anywhere from an hour to 5 or 6 hours away, and I'd be there all week. And I would literally go into these very lukewarm set appointments or cold call and meet with the owners. And typically it was like liquor stores, dry cleaners. My best clientele was mechanics because they didn't know what they were paying. They never opened their statements. Um, and overcame a lot of business card being thrown back at me, telling me to get out, just walk away from me, but I never let it get me down. I'd carry on to the next one, and I did really, really well with that. So well, in fact, in 7 months I was an inside sales manager. My manager finally took me off the road and said, okay, you can have a team now. And I built a team to 25 agents across the country very quickly in about 60 days. And 6 months later, the company offered me the opportunity to move to Utah. So
Okay.
that was back in 2016. So that's why my husband and I moved from New York to Utah. You don't move from New York to Utah without a good reason. so, so I moved here to be a general sales manager. It was a blessing and kind of a not a good situation that happened 5 months later. The new owners, because it was they had undergone a transition with new owners taking it over, and the new owners didn't look under the hood enough as it relates to the business they bought into, and they made a decision to transition very far left and shut the business down, take the portfolio in a different direction. And myself and my counterpart, who also moved from the East Coast, were both out of a job in 5 months. So had to figure that out, right? So I did a couple other things in between, but one thing that was always a dream of mine was to be in the beauty industry. And at the time, I said to myself, what is an industry that I could get into that has longevity? Because going back to retail wasn't an option. As we all know, retail and everything's online now. Malls are a thing of the past, and that's where I come from. So I was like, what industry could I get into that would be, take my background, assimilate it, and I could grow with it, and it be for the long haul. So that was really the beauty industry for me. So I pressed the proverbial button, and at 53 years old, went to cosmetology school.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went to cosmetology school, and I was not in a rush. I took my time. I had to work. A couple of my jobs when I first started, I was a server. I never served before. Here I am at 53 years old, working at like the Olive Garden. But you do what you got to do. I put myself into a situation where I wanted to go to school and I wanted to make a little money and contribute to our household. And my husband was very supportive of that. And then I got an opportunity to work for MAC Cosmetics, love MAC, at Nordstrom. So I said, you know what, if I'm going to work in retail, I'm going to work at Nordstrom. What a
Why
better
the
place
fuck
could you be? Right.
not?
And it was aligned with my, being in beauty, right? And I thought that would be very strong for my resume. So for about 13 months, I worked at Nordstrom while I was going to cosmetology school. And of course, as soon as I got my license, I was like, peace out, Nordstrom. I'm on my way. And I got behind the chair and I was doing hair and COVID happened. So everything
God.
shut down. So it's all about timing, right? So COVID happened. So we got to figure this out.
You go from this high profile, high power career, right?
Yes,
For a
yes,
long time, being
yes.
sought out as like the first in
Uh-huh.
the States, or you know what I mean? Like, especially as a woman in that
Correct.
time, and you're brought out to Utah, and you're hopeful, and then all of a sudden everything flips upside down, and now you're trying to reinvent yourself from this high power, high profile person to serving at Olive Garden, trying
Yes.
to figure it out.
Yes. So
Okay.
that was a very high paying six-figure income job. That's why we moved out here. It sounded great. And then poof, it's gone. And like I said, I did a couple other things again in merchant processing. It was a career choice that I knew did not have long term to it. It was challenging my integrity and just was like, this is not at this juncture of my life what I see myself doing. I need to pivot here and I need to figure it out. Hence the, realization of getting into the beauty industry would be a really great place to pivot to, but you have to make sacrifices to make it work, right? And that was to go to school and be committed to school. So, so I went from this six-figure job to serving, you know, making a few $100s a week. But you do what you got to do to make things happen. And then, like I was saying to you, I get out of school behind the chair, fully booked. I did a few model calls, fully booked. I think I had 40 appointments on my books. I was stacked, ready to go. And then COVID happened, which was such a weird time because we were like, are we open? Are we closed? Are we this? Are we that? It was the land of chaos at the time. And we all remember that. So now I'm home, constantly speaking to my area manager. I was at a JCPenney salon and she didn't know when the salons were reopening. Nobody knew. I'm like, well, I've got to take matters in my own hands. I have to figure this out because I'm not the type of person that's going to sit home on the couch. So I ended up getting a job being a senior admissions person up at a beauty school in Layton. So I was driving almost an hour every day to the school in Layton doing admissions. So I thought it was good because I just walked in the shoes of being a student, but I felt that I could be a good coach and mentor to people that were thinking about getting into aesthetics or cosmetology. So it was a great role for me. Every day my husband would kiss me goodbye and he would say, do you know how lucky you are? And, at this time of COVID that you have a decent job with benefits. And I'd be like, yes, honey, I'm on my way. And that's what I did for a little over a year. And then I had the opportunity to interview to be a director at another cosmetology school closer to home here in Sandy called Collective. And I went there. So that's how I ended up working in the schools. It was because of COVID. And
Interesting. Normally
that's
it's
how,
the other way.
yeah. So, because again, you got to figure out what are you going to do to make it work. So, I really loved their curriculum. The owners at Collective were very much about education first. They cared about their students, and I'm all about that as well. So I was like, I could completely buy into their brand and represent them, and loved working there. And the only reason, honestly, why I left is because I just honestly missed doing hair and being behind the chair and that connection I had with my clients. And I just was hungry for that and wanted more of that. So that's what I did. And that was in 20, 2022, 2023. So I opened up a salon in Jordan Landing, in
Your
a
own
salon,
salon.
yes, called
Okay.
50 Shades of Beauty SLC.
So brilliant.
Yes, because everything I did, my business model was it had to do with color. Hair color, obviously, teeth whitening. I also offered other aesthetic services such as cryofacials, cryo slimming, lip blush. I do semi-permanent cosmetics. So the color thing, 50 Shades of Beauty just made sense. I'm a girl over 50, so I wanted to create a brand. And I grew very quickly there from a double suite with 2 chairs. I took over another suite. So I went from 2 to 4 service chairs in 90 days. So the owners were like, "Who?
We're
What is
still
she
kind of
doing?"
in the COVID world at this point. Like it's
Well,
still
yeah, we're a couple of years post, but this was in 22, 23. But yeah, within 90 days, I went from 2 to 4 chairs. I had an assistant, and we were getting ready. We were growing, and I was really focusing at the time more on working on my business than in my business, so I could grow. And I had a plan to grow, go down to Lehigh, go up maybe to Bountiful, and have multiple locations of 50 Shades of Beauty, keeping it small and intimate because it's all about the client experience. So the owners caught wind of this, of where I was renting, and very long story short, there they convinced me very convincingly to go to work for them
mm,
and shut my salon down. So this was I was faced with a real big challenge, and my husband and I really how to sit down and think this through. Like, okay, we're investing in a business. We're not going to, how long are we going to see the return on investment? You're growing, and this is where you're going. But here's this opportunity where he wants to open more locations. He wants to give you equity in the business. It sounded great. So I'm going to say preemptively it was not the best decision, but I did take him up on the offer, and I went to work for them. And I couldn't figure out, in the beginning, they couldn't keep people here in Utah managing their business over 3 months. This was an issue for them.
really.
Should have been a red flag for me. Well, once I got in there, and as they say, the curtain was moved, I saw why. So I left because it was toxic. It was a toxic, very unprofessional environment. And then I went into a very deep depression after that because here I am. I had this wonderful, thriving business. It was growing. I'm going to admit it, not a good decision. We do that, right? Sometimes in life, you don't always make the right business decisions. So, yeah, I beat myself up a few months there and just kind of focused on doing hair, um and just really kind of self-reflected, what did I want to do? And my husband has worked for the same company for the last 8.5 years since we moved here, Avtech Capital. And I've gotten to know through President's Club trips or Christmas parties or summer events that we do. I've gotten to know a lot of the people that work here, mostly the higher ups and their spouses, and felt a part of the community and the family. And in the last 3 years, the company has made some really great strides as it relates to being very people centric, amazing work culture, work life balance. And I just was like, I want to be a part of that. Like, I'm kind of jealous, Steve, that you have that. Like it's so wonderful. And he was like, you should think about coming to work. For about a year, he would mention it to me. And I'd be like, no, no, what do I know about equipment finance? No, that's your
Mm-hmm.
wheelhouse. That's your thing. I don't know the first thing about that. He's like, yeah, but you're very good at sales. You're great with people. You should think about it. I'm like, but in my brain, I'm like, oh, I'm in the beauty industry. I'm a hairdresser. That's what I want to be doing. So,
I'm in retail, I'm in clothes,
I'm
I'm
gonna
in
read,
beauty,
yeah,
not equipment
yeah,
financing, which there's nothing sexy
yeah.
about. Like
No, I'm like, what are you nuts? That's not totally not me.
and it's a world
So
run by men primarily, right? Like
primarily, yes, there's only 3 females on the account executive team here, and I'm one of the 3. So predominantly male dominated, yes. So she's probably still here. She'll probably hear me say this, but I had the opportunity to meet Jo. She's our COO, and she's just a phenomenal human being. And connecting with her, and she's like, "You'd be great. You'd be great at our company." And I'm like, I really got to think about this. But I wanted a part of that culture that they have and the feeling of family and belonging and teammanship and collaboration.
sounds
So
like what you came from, like what
exactly,
you built, back in New
exactly.
York or businesses that were really wrapped around those like values, standards.
Values, right,
Right, right.
right.
Okay. So it kind of sounds like through your marriage, through him working, you kind of learned that these values were in place.
Mm-hmm.
Now you just got out of a shit situation,
Really
dealing
bad,
with some
yeah.
depression, and now all of a sudden this potential idea of getting back into that community. Um,
Mhm.
it could be intriguing, even though it's equipment financing, like
Right,
nothing that you would have ever thought that you got into. But
right, and
this
I
is
would
approximately when we met. I met
yes,
met you shortly after you had started, right as you were getting that really big deal, right?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Like, you met me, like, month 3 into this, and, so a position opened up here, and I was invited in for an interview, and I thought it would be a process. I didn't think they were gonna offer me the job on the spot. So I was, like, kinda thrown back, like, "Wait a minute. Think about this for a second." But, there really was no thinking about it because, to your point, I would compare this to my experience at Barnes and Noble,
Mm-hmm.
where people didn't leave working for Barnes and Noble. It's a place that we all worked together collaboratively. We worked off each other. We enjoyed working. We were passionate about what we were doing in the book business. It's a very different type of retail. It's not like selling dresses and t-shirts. You're talking about books. There's an interest level there. It's a part of the community, in the area that you're in. So I felt that what I was seeing as an outsider is like AvTech is very similar to that, and I thrived in that environment, in that culture. So when the opportunity opened up, I'm like, well, what do I have to lose? Let me go on the interview. And like I was saying, I thought it would be a process. Was presented with the opportunity at that interview, which kind of took me back, like, wait, whoa, um,
What do I do
and was
now?
what day do you want to start? And we wanted you to start. So I started June 10th last year. So it's almost been a year.
Mm-hmm.
And, as I say, I walked in here not knowing anything about the equipment finance business, but every day is a learning journey. I have really challenged myself to come in and learn the systems because if there's something that I do know, it's systems and structure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've really been able to come in here and create and develop using the systems a structure to my day, and I've tweaked it. I've tried different things, so much so now that I've dived so deeply into it that I share my observations with people that run the systems. And they appreciate that. As a matter of fact, they want me to do some training with the other account executives on structure and how to run the systems efficiently. So that's one thing I do know that was a strength that I came in that I could embrace. And every conversation that you have with a client, every potential deal that I have, um, there's nuances, and through those experiences I'm building my knowledge. And the wonderful thing is my boss, he's the executive vice president, everybody, not only him but everybody, is so supportive. Everybody has your back and wants to see you be successful and see you get that deal across the finish line and be that coach and that mentor. Never have I been made to feel stupid or that's a dumb question or devalued because, oh, she's new, she doesn't know. No. Um, and I come into work every day with a goal in mind. I'll share this with you. I don't know if you can see what this says. Can you
I
see what
can
this
see
says?
the pink. I can't see what it says, but it's underlined. What
It
does it say?
says, it says, I will find a new deal today.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I have it right in front of me right here. So I look at that and then I just keep looking at it and I will find a new deal. So I believe in positive affirmations. And I also have my Wayne Dyer perpetual calendar.
See? Okay. Surrounding yourself with the positive energy.
And I've had this since Barnes and Noble days, and it travels with me to every desk I have in every office. And it's kind of weathered a little bit, but I love
All
it.
right. Like us, right? Like us.
Yes, exactly.
So like when we met, you were just getting into this and I remember us talking and you were talking about kind of it being a world of men and not feeling right at that moment like you had support in learning
Yes.
what you needed to do. And in that conversation, you were talking about how you were just going to go in there and you were going to
Yep.
sit down and you were going to say, "Hey, I need help." Or
Uh-huh.
I don't remember, but I remember you were like, I am going to go and do that and have that conversation. And obviously, you had that conversation because shortly after you closed that huge deal, you got
Yes.
on the President's Club like within a few months. My question for you is, it
Mhm.
sounds like you have grown with a sense of confidence that you could do anything. Do you think that started at that young age where your parents said, "Go do it. You
Yes.
can do this. Like, you don't need to go to college. You mean, like,
Mhm.
you have an opportunity, go figure it out." Like, do you feel like that confidence started at a young age and has just taken you through your life? Because every single stop, there
Mhm.
is something that you have done that I truly believe started with having that confidence in yourself.
Yeah, and we are a product of our upbringing and our family, right? And luckily, I had parents that supported me. And my first job that I told you about, working in Worth Avenue, Palm Beach, my mom actually called and pretended she was me and booked the interview, and then came in and told me, "Hey, by the way, I booked this interview for you." And I was like, "What?" But I'm happy at the job I have now. Why would you do that to me? But it worked out, right? Because here I was, this 19-year-old girl, a store manager in a company. And a fun fact about that, that's how I became Kimberly, because I was always Kim.
Oh.
But Kimberly sounded at 19 much more sophisticated, right? So they were all calling me Kimberly. So that's how I transitioned into Kimberly, was at 19. And that's why, because it was more sophisticated and more adult, I felt. So, but yes, back to your point. It was that whole thing. School will always be there. This is an opportunity that people your age don't get. We think you should go take advantage of this because we know you're going to thrive in it. And if you don't, what do you have to lose? School's always going to be there. You can always go back. And that was a good choice for me at the time. Not saying, at the end of the day, in the retail industry, people didn't need to have college degrees to be successful in that industry. You just needed to have the right mindset and people skills and people developer skills. And I've known since I was about 5 years old what my calling in life was. I was blessed with that at an early age because I remember helping kind of coach or support my little friends back then, or in the second grade, I'd be taken out to go help the kindergartners read or draw or whatever. So I've always known my calling in life is helping people find their personal, or as I got into my career, professional best. So in retail, my reputation was, if you want to get promoted to the next level, go work for Kimberly, because she's going to put you on a plan and get you a plan of development and get you to that next level you want to get to. And it's the same thing if you think about it. The common thread is, okay, that's in retail, but in the fitness industry is helping people better their health and their confidence through fitness. And then in the beauty industry, through their beauty. Um, and I know with 100% confidence, the client that would sit in my chair initially that sat down was completely a different person when they walked out. Not only did their hair look beautiful, but they felt so much better because we had such a positive experience.
So you took that moment of vulnerability of, I'm starting a new career again. I'm reinventing myself. I'm, just shy of 60 at this point, right? Because we just celebrated
Mhm.
your 60th
We
birthday.
just did.
Yep. And you're in that moment again. I'm sitting at the table across from you, and she was so impeccably like put together. And I'm sitting here like across the table from this stunning, beautiful, brilliant woman in like a hoodie and Adidas pants and Adidas sneakers at this nice little
Oh, you
restaurant.
were
And I'm going,
cute.
oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But that moment, it was like you made me feel like I was perfect exactly the way that I was without
And
even
you were.
trying. And it was beautiful. But I remember for a moment, there was a sense of like this vulnerability of, I don't know what I'm doing. And like,
Mhm.
you don't know what you're doing. But you were going to do something.
Yeah,
So you
figure it
went
out.
into that office. What
Mhm.
happened when you sat down across from this man that you're, maybe intimidated by, maybe not, but you're like, I need to step up and speak up for myself. What
Well,
happened in that moment?
well, yeah, sure. So, well, the unfortunate thing is, initially I had a different boss, and what
Oh,
I wasn't privy to at that time, because it was new and we didn't know this at the time, is that person was checked out. And
Ah,
therefore, because that person was checked out, they weren't being a very good leader, coach, or mentor.
got it.
So I didn't know that at the time when we met, figured that out about 2 months later, because that person's no longer with the company, for good reason,
Mhm,
because they were
obviously.
checked out. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but I did, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So you and I and our friend were there and we talked about it and what I was going to do. And I did do that, but it kind of fell on deaf ears, as they say, because this individual was checked out.
Didn't care. Yeah.
Didn't care. Probably, hired me because he was told to hire Kimberly. I don't know, at the time. But everything at the end of the day has a way of working out. And now I'm super blessed to be on, my boss's name is Greg, his team. He's incredible with what he does. We can get on a call and he can suss out through the nuances opportunities that I wouldn't be able to. So he is kind of in that hand holding still with me, because I say to him, I'm like, I don't know anything yet. I'm still learning. So he knows that. But, I can handle it. I can tee it up because I'm cold calling. So from a cold call, I'm initiating a meeting and I'm teeing that up and I'm overcoming the objections, and I'm, saying, listen, let's get our meeting of the minds here. Let's have an introductory call. Let me invite my boss, Greg. He's the executive vice president. He's been doing this for 2 years. Honestly, I've been doing this for a minute, but he's an expert and he has a really great way of sussing things out, that I or you are going to miss. And, anybody else you want to invite from your team, I think the more minds that we can get together, the better. And that typically sells it. People are like, yeah, let's do that. It shows that I care and that I'm willing to go to the end of the mile to figure this out and help them and support them. And, my job as an account executive is that relationship part.
Yes.
So I'm the relationship manager in the account. I'm kind of reeling them in, building that relationship. Greg gets involved. He helps me structure the terms, and we send out the proposal and we get that over the finish line. And then there's a whole credit and doc team here that will pick it up from there, and everybody works synergistically together there. And their goal is to get it across the finish line back for me, right? So it goes all the way around in a big circle and comes back. And I know they're going to the ends of the earth for the client, because that's the hardest part, is
Mhm.
when it gets over there. But
Mhm.
I know they're handling the client with kid gloves, and I know they're in very capable hands. The girls come in at 7 a.m. Yeah, they're here at 7 a.m. and that's because of the time and what they have to do, because there's a lot of detail put into it. But I know when it shifts over to the other side, I know it's in good hands. I'm confident that that client's being taken care of. But I still maintain relationship. I still follow up, because what we want to do is we don't want to be one and done. We don't want to be transactional. We want the client to come back to us again and again.
Mhm. And that's
And
in
that's,
any business, right?
yep, yep.
Any business. That is how you maintain the brand
Hmm.
ambassadors. That's how you keep your marketing costs down, by building that relationship up front and by maintaining that relationship for long term. Because
Hmm.
when the next person says, "Hey, I need to get, a website," and you're like, "You know what? There's Erica and Jason. I know them forever. Here, let me give you their number." Right there,
Right.
you have a brand ambassador. But it starts with that very first thing, I think, Kimberly, that you touched on is you were honest and
Hmm.
vulnerable. And
Hmm.
I don't know everything, but I
Hmm.
want to make sure that you get the best I can absolutely offer. So here's an idea. Let's bring in the big guns, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
you made them the number one priority, not your ego,
Exactly.
not
Mhm,
your ego, not your,
mhm,
not your commissions, whatever it may be.
mhm.
You made them the number one priority. And it sounds like just that one character trait has taken you far, far since
Absolutely.
19 years old. It sounds like
Thank
you
you.
have kept that character trait, that value,
Mhm.
that whole career time.
Well, absolutely, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust,
Uh-huh.
right? And the secret to success back in the retail days is just to build that credibility and that repeat clientele, right? So that, and have excellence in service. And, Barnes and Noble, my standard was showroom condition. And what was great about my store is always looking in showroom condition is I didn't have to worry about bigwigs coming from the corporate office, which was 20 minutes over a bridge to come right over to my store. They could come in any time and my store look great and be selected to test and try things out. That was a lot of fun, for us to have that honor to do that in our store as a team. But to have that gold standard and level of service is to your point about being a good brand ambassador, whether it be in your business or my business, you also build, number one, repeat clientele, but number two, referral business. And that's the best way to get business, in my opinion, is referral. So again, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And that's my job. My job is to get to know them, get them to like me and trust me enough to move to the next level.
So we're talking about women, we often struggle, especially in a man's world, with imposter syndrome, right? With having to reinvent ourselves. Like I actually went through this almost exact same thing 5 years ago or 6 years ago when we moved here. One of my clients was a Childhood Cancer Foundation, and they had been my primary responsibility for 8-9 years. And then the founder passed away. And so the foundation kind of just dwindled into something very small, and no longer was that my number one priority. I had no idea who I was, right? I lost that identity that I had placed on myself. And so trying to reinvent myself was really, really hard for me. And I think even to this day, I am still struggling. So for other women out there, I mean, men too, love y'all guys, but this is a, chick conversation right now. What would you tell women who are having to take that first step to reinvent themselves? Because you are, even to this day now, mentoring and coaching the
Yeah.
women in the office and in the group. Like that also has been a character trait and a value that you have taken with you. So
Yeah.
what would you tell somebody who's like literally having to start over at 50, at 60?
So, you got to take a self inventory, going back and assessing your strengths and what do you bring to the table, and starting with that, like, where are my strengths, where have I celebrated successes, where have things maybe not gone the way we want, or my learning, where were the learning opportunities, and kind of weighing it. Dad always taught me to take the legal piece of paper, draw the line down, write your pros and cons, and that's even doing it on yourself. What do you, what are your strengths? What are your assets? What do you have to offer? What do you bring to the table? What are those characteristics? And then where are your area? And the other side is, where are my I hate to use the word weaknesses. So areas of development, much better.
Oh, areas
Yeah,
of
areas of
development.
development.
I love
Where are
that.
those?
I
You
love
know, and then the other thing to look at is, what are you passionate about? Because if we're not passionate about what we're doing, are we really going to look forward to going and doing that every day?
Okay.
So, really looking at, like, for me, it was, okay, retail wasn't an option because we know that's just not going to be it for the long haul. But a good example, I sat back and said, well, these are the things, these are my assets. This is what I bring to the table, but I know nothing about the beauty industry. So, okay, I got to sacrifice for 18, 20 months and go to school and be a waitress or whatever it is I needed to do to make it happen. But I was holding myself accountable and not going to let myself down, right? I was doing what it took to make it happen, to get to that end goal, which was a brief period of time, if you think about it. To me, 18 to 20 months was an investment of time and investment in myself for getting into a career opportunity that potentially was for the long haul, right? Um, so that's how I would look at it, and removing the fear, removing the doubt, believing in yourself, because those are voices in our head that can really easily take over if we allow them to. Years ago, I read a book by Joyce Meyer called, and it's funny, before the book even came out, I used to say, the mind's a great battlefield, the mind's a great battlefield. And she wrote a book, Battlefield of the Mind, and I read it. And, she talks about this very subject, about how we let those negative thoughts come into our head and infiltrate our mindset, where we've got to remove that, and we've got to remind ourselves, what is the value? We are valuable, and where are those assets, and really work off those assets and what we're passionate about. and finding something that we truly can enjoy doing. And it may be an investment of money or time for a short period of time and sacrificing, but look at the reward at the end.
And looking at, I think you said what it is that defines you, what you really want, right?
Mhm.
Not basing our next steps off of what's expected of us, but what we are expecting of ourselves.
Ourselves,
Holding ourselves accountable
holding
to
your
ourselves, which
true
is what
self, true
true self.
authentic self.
There you go. And I think that we too often, especially as women, we hold ourselves accountable to what is expected of us or what we think is expected of us based off of
Mhm.
our history, our life, our relationships. And
Absolutely.
we don't hold ourselves accountable to our own truth and authentic self.
Correct.
And that's terrible. It's sad because we'll beat ourselves up. We'll settle for
Mhm.
something that is not really what our heart's desire leads us to. And that I think puts us into that cycle of just being unhappy and
Right.
depressed and not seeing a path forward to reinvent ourselves. As like you had this moment of depression where you
Mhm.
made a bad decision, which we have all done,
All done
right?
it.
You had just reinvented yourself. You had
Mhm.
just proven to yourself again that you are good at what you do, no matter
Mhm.
what it is that you touch, you are
Mhm.
good at it. And then one decision changed everything.
Yes. Yeah.
One decision changed everything. After all that work, after all those decisions, after 2 years of school, after, completely switching it up from six figures, to
Mhm.
waitressing at Olive Garden,
Mhm.
like you made that decision, you reinvented yourself, and then shit. And
Mhm.
now you got to do it all over again.
Right.
And I think that's where that first one is where a lot of women would have stopped.
Yeah.
So, what was the driving force for you? Like, what made you think I have to get back up and just go do it? Like,
Right.
'cause it sounds
Yeah.
like you had success your whole career, and then a really shit thing happened, and now you
Mhm.
have to redo it all over again. So, like, how did you tear that band-aid off?
So I remembered I had mentioned Sharon Adams earlier. She was such an influential part to my growth. I really, she was my coach and mentor. She was the woman that, promoted me to a district manager to New York, New Jersey, this opportunity. And I think when I was going through that painful part a couple of years ago, the transition thing that you were asking me, reflecting back on what would Sharon say? And one of the things that she said, one of your key strengths, Kimberly, is confidence, that you have
Woo!
a higher level of confidence than most people. When I was faced with this bad choice that I made and kind of depression because, it really sucked. At the end of the day, it just was really not a fun experience. Um, I just reminded myself of, you have so much to bring to the table, so much assets, but the number one thing is you have a level of confidence that you know that no matter what you're going to do, you're going to be successful.
Okay.
So why are you second guessing yourself? And another thing I wanted to say based on what you were just talking about is I don't want to disqualify family or a spouse or partner in their opinions, but at the end of the day, you've got to dig deep inside of you and you've got to do what makes you happy and thriving. You can't be doing it based on other people and these voices outside. You've got to really dig in and say, what's it going to take to make me feel successful, confident? I'm going to enjoy getting up and getting out of bed every day, getting ready, getting in my car, walk, train, plane, bus, however we get there. What's going to be my driving force? And then that gets into your why.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
there we
Why
go.
am I doing this? Right? What is your why? You got to have a strong enough why. And for me, what my why is I want to have my husband and I, his children are grown, but I want to have a certain lifestyle. That's my drive. My why is our lifestyle. We have a nice home. We have 4 dogs. My why is I want to enjoy going to work every day. And now I get to work with him, which is great. We're not on the same team, but I see him. We drive to work together. It's great. We're known as the power couple in the office. It's very funny. But it's super cool that the company would even hire me. being his spouse. But my why is that I want to live a nice lifestyle. You know me, I'm a fashionista. You could take the girl out of fashion. You're not going to take the fashion out of the girl. I love my fashion. I love my makeup. I, love to get my nails done and my hair done. I want to have the ability to say yes to those things.
Mhm. Oh, her clothes. I'm telling you, this woman has the most amazing wardrobe. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. You're a doll. But your why has to be, is it kids and you want to get them to college, or, we have to have a strong enough why. And I have a lot of younger coworkers here, and I will say to them, what is your why? If I see they're kind of dragging or just not feeling very motivated, I'll be like, well, let's talk about it. And one of my questions is absolutely going to be, what is your why? What is your drive? Why are you here? What is your goal? Like, how much money do you want to earn? And I will share something. Hold on, I'm going to show you something. And when I put this up, everybody was like, "What is that on your desk? And where did you get that?" And I ended up printing them for more people. But I have this is from The Secret, which I'm a big believer in the book The Secret. It's
Yep.
actually tattooed on my wrist.
Yep.
But I have $1 million check here at my desk that I wrote to myself.
Him too. Okay.
So, you manifest. It's the power of
Yeah.
you ask the universe for it. And back in the 80s, creative visualization, the book was such a huge, I mean, I read it when I was 18 is when I first got into creative visualization. But when The Secret came out, I'm like, oh, this is a lot of Wayne Dyer. This is a lot of creative visualization. It's a lot of everything put together in relatable terms, right? I think I read The Secret in a day back in 2005 when it came out. Um, but I try to live by those principles all the time. And there are times I'll go back and reread sections of it or just pick something up just as a refresher to remind myself. You've got to ask the universe, you've got to believe it, visualize it, whatever the tools are you need to do, because it does work.
It
It
does.
absolutely does work
And
because
we
it's
talk about
mindset.
gratitude too, right? Like our
Yep,
gratitude journals, right? Like you and I talked about that. I think
absolutely.
last time we had lunch together was about
Yes.
having that gratitude journal and how like I had mentioned how bad we were struggling. Like life when we first met, like
Hmm.
it was awful. I was struggling so bad. And then the second time we had lunch together, it was like, we're supposed to be celebrating your big win. And I'm crying in your lap. Um, but I told you I started a gratitude journal.
Huh?
And within a couple of days, little things started to turn around.
Right.
But I think it's because I was grateful for the snow on the ground, grateful for the smell of the rain, grateful for just the little things that I could find. I started seeing these things that were happening. I
Hmm.
think these things had been happening, but I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't welcoming them into my life. When we had
Hmm.
that conversation, it was like, okay, you were telling me about how you did a training on gratitude with your
Hmm.
staff, with your team.
Yep.
And those little things, just those little actions, they work because we're putting it out there. Those positive vibes, those
Hmm.
energy, that confidence out into
Hmm.
the world,
Well,
and it
it's
comes
you're
back,
right.
right?
Positive attracts positive.
Like attracts like.
Yep. Like attracts like. And, every day, one of my goals, I keep my legal pad here and I write down my notes, but I always write when I come in, what are my objectives for the day? And in my to do, like key things I have to do. I'm a list person. I'm a highlighter girl. I'm old school. I like highlighter, sticky notes, um, highlighting in different colors. I like that sense of checking off and having, oh, that's so gratifying, checking things off my
I do
list.
too.
Yeah. So I'm very much a list person, a highlighter person. My planner, this is something else, and this is probably the retail girl in me, but I'll show you my planner. It's kind of crazy, but it's highlighted. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, it keeps showing up the
Yeah.
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 Oh,
There we
okay, there you
go.
go. Oh, okay. Okay. You got
So
different color highlights. You got
for
the
different things.
that's
But this
cool.
is this is how I structure my week. Now, what's in here is mostly workout. Like I structure my day and I schedule when I'm going to go work out so I hold myself more accountable, because that's the other thing is you've got to have time for self-care, whatever that looks like. And I hold myself accountable to work out at least 4 days a week. And I schedule them, and they are in pen, in the planner, in highlighter. So it's bold, it's there. And then you're less likely to blow it off because, again, it goes back to that accountability that we were talking about, holding yourself accountable.
This isn't always the easiest thing to do.
No, it's so easy to blow it off. But the days that I feel like, oh, I don't really feel like going to P-Volve tonight. I'm so tired. I wish I could go home. But I go and I take it. And then when I'm leaving, I'm like, oh, that was the best thing ever. I went like, oh, I'm so glad I went. I feel 10 times better. So it's just, again, it's the voices, the voices in our head, and you got to have the strength to overcome them. And I just feel like writing it in pen is more permanent, and it's going to I'm less likely not to go.
So at 60, you just
Hmm.
closed what you said to be a life-changing deal. You are
Yes.
championing, why can't I say that word? Bold moves. You are
Hmm.
pushing boundaries.
Hmm.
In your experience, what do you think are the biggest barriers that hold people back from reaching their full potential? And how do you think they could take a step towards like breaking through those barriers? So, what are the biggest barriers you think hold people back? And I'm asking because you are a mentor, a teacher, you understand the people on your team. So, what holds them back? And then, what do you suggest to help push them through those?
Well, I think number one, it's the negative voices in our head, self-doubt, lack of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of recapping what we've talked about, it's going back and writing it on paper. What are my greatest assets, my strengths? What do I bring to the table? Where have I celebrated my successes and my biggest successes, and why? What were my actions that led to those successes? Writing those down. And on the other end, okay, what are my areas that, I need to improve on? And what are the action steps? Identify them, own them, be humble with yourself and say, hey, okay, well, I'm not the greatest at this, but what could I do to get myself to another level so maybe I am more marketable in that area if that's something you want to do. Um, just really recognizing that you are of value, and what are those values? Um,
You
identifying.
are of value. Do you guys hear
Yes,
that? You are of value. So,
you
what are those
are.
values?
Yeah.
You are of value. Love
I
that.
think another thing is, and it took me 40 years to figure this one out. Not everybody has to like you. Yeah. Scary, I know, because I used to think everybody had loved Kimberly, and it was like, "Oh, you don't like me? Why?" I would have so much anxiety over that. And here's the thing, people, it took me over 40 years to figure out not everybody has to like you. And that's okay. It's all right. Not everybody's supposed to like you. You don't like everybody. That's human nature. And it's okay. But you have to like you. And you have to surround yourself with people that get you. And, I would rather have two or three really good friends that understand me and get me and are on my, that soul sister level than have a lot of different friends that aren't true friends and aren't authentic. But yeah, they like me enough to hang out with me, but do they really get me? No. So not everybody has to like you and or agree with you
Yeah. Oh, and or agree with
and or
you.
agree with you.
Even if they do like you, they don't have to agree with you for you to still have value.
We can disagree to disagree. I mean, we could agree to disagree. I screwed that one
Yeah,
up. We
that's
could
okay.
agree to disagree.
Yes. Yes.
And that's
And it's
okay.
and that's okay. And it's
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with people who get you, right?
You got to have a
Because
tribe.
the first thing I thought actually the same thing happened with our other Kimberly. I sat
Yes.
across, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's not gonna like me. Like,
Hmm.
she's not gonna like me. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here in this, skater gear
Uh-huh.
because we had just done something else, and I'm sitting across from this most beautiful woman. She's not gonna like me. But it's like instantly that went away, and I was able to be me, just
Right.
me in my hat and my sneakers. And we have just had this just like bond almost immediately. It's those people you need to keep in your life that will help you grow and succeed. And I can speak
Absolutely.
from experience with you because it was that moment I'm sitting literally on your celebration day, crying in
Uh-huh.
your lap. And I go home and I made some serious changes. And
Yeah,
I found some of my light again. And it's
I love that.
because I surrounded myself with the right people who got me.
Get
So,
you and not judge you.
yes,
And
yes.
see you for your authentic self and want to support you. And hey, we all go through ups and downs. That's life. That's this thing called life, right? It's not going to always be perfect. We're not going to always make the right decisions or the right moves, and you learn from them. You know, it was when we moved here. I was so excited for my job, and I came here with passion and purpose, and wanting to help the company make a change. To be laid off because they're closing in 5 months because they made a bad decision. Well, now we're here. We committed to moving out here. That was really kind of a stinky thing to have happen, but it was a blessing in disguise because it opened up a new environment, a new life dynamic. Quality of life is so much better for us here. Little did we know that. We didn't know COVID was going to happen. We were so grateful. When COVID was happening, my husband would look at me and be like, "Aren't you glad we're here and not back east?" So I'm like, "Oh, yeah. It was so much better here."
Oh,
Um,
that, yeah.
yeah, think about that. So that was a blessing in disguise because we would have thought to move here. It was of that. So I think that that kind of yucky thing that happened was a catalyst to open up a better life for us.
Mhm.
Going through the beauty industry and all of that was a great experience. It was an experience. And that last thing that happened stung, but that's okay because now I'm in a better situation from it. I've learned, I've looked back on it, I've learned from it, licked my wounds, found myself again, and now I'm in a wonderful situation. And in November, you've mentioned that big deal I had. That paycheck, that one commission check that I received was the largest paycheck I have ever received ever in one paycheck in my life. So that
Life
felt great.
change.
Life
Yeah.
changing. That felt great. So now I know I've come full circle and I'm where I'm supposed to be. The road may be a little rocky and bumpy and, a lot of tears, but at the end of the day, looking back on it, I wouldn't change it because I've grown
Yes. Yes.
and I've come
100%.
into my own. And now I actually am not stressed out anymore and I actually sleep well at night. Imagine that.
That'd be nice.
Yes. Yes. I'm not stressed out because my husband used to say to me, "You're so high strung," because I was. I'm not anymore. I sleep well at night. And I can enjoy my weekends. I don't have to work on the weekends anymore. I can have quality time with my husband. And that's important to me.
Yeah. It's a lifestyle.
It's a life, again, right. That's my why. It's not only monetarily, it's also time. I just taught a class about time this morning, the value of
Mhm.
time. And it's not about time management. That's a different thing. This is about that the bad news is time flies. The good news is we do have control over our time and how we choose to spend it.
Will you go into that just for a little bit and kind of tell
Sure.
us what you taught about today?
Sure. So I saw a LinkedIn article last month and it really struck me because, as you've mentioned, I just turned 60 years old. Don't know how that happened, but it did. Here I am. So the value of time is really resonating with me right now because I'll back up the story a little bit more even. 401k guy came to talk to us about 401k, and I've got a lot of younger guys here, like 20s, 30s. And, I was saying to them after, I said, when I was your age, 55 seemed so far away. Like I didn't even have to think about it. Like that's not even a reality. Oh, that's like 25, 30 years away. Why am I worried about this now? And it's like worry about it now when it comes to retirement. Because here I am at 60 and I'm like, oh, this is a reality now. And I only have maybe 20, 25, 30 summers left. You've got 70 more summers left. Use it wisely because you don't get time back. We can't go back and get time, but we can impact the time that we spend today, which is absolutely going to influence tomorrow and our future. So that was a lot of what I talked about this morning. But what I touched on even more was time suckers. What are things that get in our way of spending quality time with our family or our partner, spouse? And a big answer to that came up today. One thing that was common was distance. Family lives in other states. It's too
Okay.
far.
Okay.
Um, So what we came up with that is the Kimberly diagnosis is, well, why not schedule a routine like a FaceTime or Zoom or whatever, where you can, it's not just talking on a phone, you actually see each other's faces. And this is like every third Sunday of the month at 7 o'clock, we're going to get on, whether it's your kids or grandkids or whoever it is that you feel that you're neglecting because of this distance thing, and create that time, create a routine is what came of that. Um, the
It's like
next
my
one,
FaceTime Fridays with Kimberly.
yeah,
Since
there you
you
go,
moved,
FaceTime
we have our
Fridays.
FaceTime Fridays.
Yeah,
Okay, brilliant.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And then as it relates to home, what are time suckers, or what gets in the way of getting projects done or organizational things that you want to get done in your home? A
Laundry.
lot of right, laundry. And one of the girls mentioned that she gets it done, but it sits in a pile she never
Time
folds, and it
sucker.
gives right, it's a time sucker. But it gives her anxiety, but when she finally puts it away, she feels good. So
Yep.
it's the so one of the suggestions that came out of that part of the conversation was get some friends to come over. Like one of the girls was saying that they created a group about organization, and that every week they would go to each other's, a different person's home, and have 3 or 4 people come over, and they would work on this organizational project, whether it's a closet or a storage room or a room in general. Get people together because it's better in numbers. And one of the girls actually said, I'm embarrassed to say, but I still have my Christmas tree up. So I was like, let Dr. Kimberly help you with this. This is what I think you should do. Make it an event. Invite the girlfriends over, have some adult beverages, put on some Christmas music, and take the tree down. Make it an event and get some help. And it will be fun. And then you'll stop with the anxiety every morning when you look at the tree. So that was another one. And then another one was with work. Well, work, the time suckers there is all the emails I get, or the lack of efficiencies and structure in my department.
Or the
Well,
shoulder taps where you're in the middle
right,
of something and somebody's
right.
like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And now your whole next hour is thrown off because you've had that moment of interruption and yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right. So, you create your own structure. And one of the things that I talked about is we have time blocks where we're supposed to cold call every day.
Mhm.
And then I have structured my day around that to get the other things, the other important things done that I want to get done. And they're probably on this list that I showed you, and they're highlighted. But I create structure. So you've got to create your own structure within the structure and hold yourself accountable to that. And then the last one was health and fitness, which is very easy for everybody to get away from, right? There's
Mhm.
excuses. And of course, it goes back to what I was saying about you've got to write it down. You got to put it in pen and highlighter. You got to make it an event, because then you're less likely to blow it off. And then also take a partner, find a workout buddy, or just a buddy to go walk the dog to the park and do the dog park thing. That's quality action time, getting yourself out of the house.
And it's body doubling, which
And
I've
it's
learned about
right.
recently is people with
Ah.
ADHD like me,
Mm-hmm.
I will get stuck and I will be like, I need to open this door so I can go for a walk, but I can't turn the knob. I literally physically can't turn the knob. But if Jaden, my son, says he'll come with me, instantly open right up. So
Yeah,
body doubling, having that person who will
I
sit
love
next to
that.
you or, be on the phone with you while you're working on something, like that helps me get through that break and that block. Like you say, structure. I hear
Mm-hmm.
structure a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
hear lists, like
Mm-hmm.
checking things off.
Mm-hmm.
I hear identifying and defining your why, right?
Absolutely.
I hear kind of getting creative with
Mhm,
finding an answer,
mhm.
right?
Thinking
You're
outside the
stuck
box.
you're stuck on that answer. You can't figure out how to take this next step, so you're getting creative, right? You're bringing your girlfriends over to take down the Christmas tree.
Yeah,
You're making an event
yeah,
of it so that it's like, "Okay, I'm gonna break through that barrier that's keeping me from opening the door."
right, exactly. And write things down. I was gonna hold the paper up. Write it down.
Right.
Writing it down makes it more realistic. It's so important to write things down. Create a list, check it off, that sense of accomplishment. It seems silly, but it's so impactful.
It really is, and it's empowering, and it's,
Mhm,
again, holding yourself accountable, which you've said a lot in this,
mhm,
is,
mhm,
I think confidence will come from
mhm,
holding yourself accountable
mhm.
and meeting that accountability, right?
I wanna add one more thing to that point before you go on really quick, is something that I do. It's a mental challenge is, okay, and I've always done this. How could I be doing this better? How high is high? So I mentally challenge myself in what I'm doing. How could I be doing this better? Okay, we've had success here. We achieved a goal, right? But how could challenging myself? How could I be doing it better? Changing it up, trying new things, not being afraid to do that, but inside, internally challenging myself. How could I do it even better? So I'm
Comfortable with
kind of
being
like self-coaching and mentoring myself.
yeah. Yeah. And you're out of your
Mm-hmm.
comfort zone because you are questioning yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting comfortable with being a little uncomfortable. And when you
My
have
favorite
to
saying.
look at yourself and
Mm-hmm.
be like, okay, how can I do this better? That's a little uncomfortable,
Yeah,
but the results are phenomenal because
exactly.
you're always striving for just the next step forward, and that will help with the confidence.
Absolutely.
That'll
That's
help with
exactly
the,
right.
the imposter syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being able to walk into a moment that doesn't feel great, but being like, I got this. Like,
I
okay,
own it. Take
I
an
own
ownership.
it.
You own it. Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, this is the longest podcast I've ever
Oh my
done. And
gosh.
I don't think I'm going to cut a single minute from this. Kimberly, I
Oh
could
my
talk
gosh.
to you forever and ever and ever. And luckily, I have you as a friend in my life.
Yes.
And so that will
Yes.
change. As long as I answer the damn text messages, we'll
Yes.
be
Answer the text.
fine.
Yes. And I'd
But
be more than happy
again,
to do this again because this is so fun.
we should totally just start like do a
Yes.
different topic like that
Yes.
women face. I think truly we could just do it like
I
once
would
a
love
month,
that.
whatever.
Yeah.
But that again goes to being around people who understand and know you.
Mm-hmm.
As I suck at responding at text messages a lot of the times
She's terrible.
because I think, oh, I responded to that. In my head, I respond to you, Kimberly. In my head, I have put an answer out there. But
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, shit," and when you said that, I was like, "Oh my god," but
I
here's
might
the
have called
thing,
you out on it.
she called me out on it, which made me, A, understand that she loves and respects me
Yes.
because she's not afraid
I
to
value
be
you.
honest and blunt with me, and she knows me. She knew that I needed that little, like, "Wake the fuck up, Erica." And then what did I do? I promised you I will text you first next time. And yes, I had to schedule it and I
That's
had to
hysterical.
write it down, but I did it. And now I honestly am better. I'm not great, but I am better at responding. But that's because I put myself in the world of somebody who is not uncomfortable or who is comfortable with making things a little uncomfortable,
Yeah. Shake it up. Think
which
outside
helps
the
me grow.
box. Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
it's phenomenal. Well, okay, last question for you. Who
Yes.
do you feel is the most innovative person or book or that has changed your life, has had a really profound impact on your life? Now, this could be an entrepreneur, it can be an author, it can be a friend, it could be whoever. But I always end off by asking that question.
Well, I've already mentioned them, but I'll mention them again. The individual was Sharon Adams, who was my boss back in the late 80s and
Your
from like
first
85 to 90. Yeah.
job, right? When you were 19?
Well, excuse me, probably like my 34th job, but
Okay.
she was the one where I went from store manager to district manager from Florida to New York, New
That's
Jersey,
right. Okay.
Northeast. She was the most influential person, aside from my parents, of course, because they were very influential in a very good way for me. And book was absolutely The Secret. I just think that that book just put all the other books into something that was digestible and you could easily apply it. And it wasn't juju or magic
Mm-mm.
sauce. It was reality. Positive attracts positive, like attracts like. Mindset in living by those principles has brought me good fortune in my life. So I would say those two things. And lastly, and I'm actually rereading the entire Bible. I do it every Sunday. I bought a spiral binder and I'm reading it every Sunday. And just the stories that you read in there just resonate because I was brought up a Catholic.
Okay.
So I'm going back to those roots, but it also resonates in today's life. And it makes me think and get reconnected with my spirituality. So I would say that would be another one.
I'm going to add you to my list when I talk about people who have profoundly influenced me in a
Oh,
very
wow.
short time, because you have. You
I'm going to
make
start
me
crying.
realize that there's no stopping you if you have the drive, the mental fortitude, and the understanding of yourself, right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
understand yourself.
Stand yourself.
Are inspirational, you are powerful, you are strong, but you are also vulnerable and you're also
Mhm.
sweet.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you are somebody who I know I will remember for the rest of my life. And I hope that other people who are lucky to be in your circle feel the same, because anybody who gets to get in your energy, like I said, they're just absolutely blessed. So
Oh,
I have no doubt that so many people took a lot from this conversation. I'm grateful that you joined me. Thank you for
thank you.
spending a Friday evening with me. Next time we'll do it with some wine. And
Yes.
is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off today?
I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this with you. I've been wanting to do it for a while because I connected with you and I just love you and value you in my life. And, it's just another way to get the word out there. And, if we can impact others and, even if they take one or two of the principles that we talked about today away and they apply it and they see success with it, that makes me so happy. I just want to be that bright, shiny light and inspiration to others, and just be open and welcoming to people. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Well, I think next thing we need to do is take some of these lesson plans that you're sharing with your team and turn them into episodes. I think even if
Sure.
they're 15, 20-minute episodes, I think it would be
Mhm.
a lot of fun.
I'd be more than happy to share it with you.
All right, everybody. Again, this is Kimberly Hightower. She is amazing, and I'm grateful. I hope you learned from us. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff that I hate saying anyway.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Wow, what a great episode. I hope you had as much fun as I did. If you want more of this goodness, make sure you subscribe so that you get notifications for future podcasts. And if you found value from this, please share it with others. You can visit our website at cwgdigital.com. This is Erica Bailey. I am your host, and I will see you next time.